We're in Psalm 67 today, and Psalm 67 begins with a very familiar passage that is taken from Numbers 6, the Aaronic Benediction, which so many ministers quote at the end of their sermons. And it's a wonderful benediction, but sometimes it's taken a little bit out of context, and the meaning of it is not fully understood. But let's read it. Psalm 67:1. God be gracious to us and bless us, and cause his face to shine upon us. Now, what does that really mean? It's great to unpack that benediction because it is so powerfully referring to Christ, the Messiah. It comes from Numbers 6, which says, Then the Lord spoke to Moses, verse 22, saying, Speak to Aaron and to his sons, saying, Thus you shall bless the sons of Israel. You shall say to them, and this was a very important benediction that was to be given to the Israelites in order to get them to anticipate the coming blessing of God dwelling among his people. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. So they shall invoke my name on the sons of Israel, and then I will bless them. And of course, eventually he would. Now, it speaks very clearly about the face of God. One of the things we see in the New Testament regarding the fulfillment of prophecy is that God would be face to face with his people. The Lord caused his face to shine upon you. That would imply face to face. 1 Corinthians 15, they were looking forward to that. Then we shall see face to face. And it is really a marital relationship and a blessing of God upon his people. Now remember, under the Old Testament, God had turned his face away from them because of their sin. Their sins had separated them from their God so that he would not hear. He has hidden his face from us. Isaiah 59 verses 1 and 2 is very clear. And it goes on to enumerate the sins of the self-righteous. They try to cover themselves with their works. But God sees their works, their self-righteousness, as works of iniquity. And their works are filthy rags. Their righteousness were filthy rags. But in the Old Testament, it speaks of showbread. And we've spoken a little bit on this before. Showbread. The word show means a turning of the face. And Christ is the bread of life. So through eating of the bread of life, God turns his face. His face shines upon us. He smiles upon us. And so that's what's going on. The Lord be gracious to us, bless us, cause his face to shine upon us. Now it says, that your way may be known on the earth. And that way, of course, is Christ. I am the way, the truth, and the life. That your way may be known on the earth, your salvation among the nations. Well, his salvation is now known among the nations, which means he has indeed fulfilled this promise to cause us to smile upon us, to cause his face to shine upon us, and lift up his countenance or presence upon us. Now, what we see in the book of Psalms is that we are satisfied with his likeness. In your presence is fullness of joy. The Bible speaks many times in Psalms about the Lord's countenance or presence. And it is through his presence that we have life, through his shining his face upon us, smiling upon us. And that's what the Greek word hilasmos means when Christ is said to be our propitiation or atonement. That is, it is the atonement that makes happy, hilasmos, hilarious, God. It satisfies his wrath. So now he looks upon us with favor. He smiles upon us through the satisfaction of Christ's atonement. He shall see of the travail of his soul, Isaiah 53 says, and shall be satisfied. And so that's what we're getting out of this and the benediction. We're seeing Christ through and through that benediction. Let the peoples praise you, O God. Let all the peoples praise you. Why? Because of Christ's work, his death and resurrection. Let the nations be glad and sing for joy. Kingdom elements of joy and singing and praise. For you will judge the people with uprightness. He doesn't judge after the Pharisees' manner of judging, which was according to what they had seen and heard. So they had heard the tongue of gossip and accusation, and they would look upon the outward, whereas God looks upon the heart. He says, let the people praise you, O God, let the peoples praise you. The earth has yielded its produce. Jesus had chosen them and us to bear fruit, and that our fruit should remain. God, our God, blesses us. Again, that blessing is inseparable from him causing his face to shine upon us and to be gracious and bless us and lift up his countenance. God blesses us that all the ends of the earth may fear him. So that's Psalm 67, direct quotation from Numbers chapter 6, and finds its fulfillment in the finished work of Christ.